Welcome back to Light Talk, where the paranormal and the supernatural is a part of our everyday lives. We have an absolutely wonderful guest for us today, and we're going to get started. So, welcome to the show, and go ahead and take over and introduce yourself.
Okie dokie. Thank you much. I'm pleased to be here. My name's Andrew Robinson, originally from the Boston area of Massachusetts, Boston, and grew up there. Spent my childhood summers down on the island of Martha's Vineyard. This was back in the 60s and 70s. Saw the movie Jaws being filmed. In fact, my sister-in-law worked on the special effects there. She was one of the people turning the valves on those hydraulics to get Bruce to work when they could get him to work. There's a reason you don't see the shark very much in the movie.
Really
Anyway,
exciting.
yeah, I grew up in that area and now live in the Orlando, Florida area. I'm a civil engineer, but I'm also a writer. And I have several books published. Most recently, I've just had a murder mystery that's been published. It's called Murder on Gosnold Island. You can find it as in the Kindle version on Amazon. It was published by a London-based company. Um, and then I've also written for some online streaming shows called The Egos. There's also All in the Line Studios, and most recently Canned Meat Theater. They actually do a audio podcast, which I guess in the old days we would just say is a radio show. And it's a little comedy variety thing. And their latest episode is up, and they made use of three of my little skits, little 5, 8 minute little comedy things. So that's kind of fun. You can find their website and just click and listen to their to the podcast. But right now, as I say, since we're talking about the paranormal here, I have a few stories to share, and they all center on the island of Martha's Vineyard, which little island off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and it's got quite the colorful history when it comes to, strange and unusual events. The Wampanoag that have lived there for millennia, they've got a number of myths and legends concerning the island. My first one concerns a cottage that my family lived in for many summers, and definitely a summer cottage. Very, very simply built little place. It was originally built back in the late 1800s by a member of the family called Uncle Enoch Page. And it was called that because he was a stepfather to my grandmother, Hazel Lowe. And the story goes that he built this little cottage here in one summer, which again gives you an indication of just how well put together. I mean, these cottages of Martha's Vineyard, the most famous ones are known of are in what's called the campgrounds, and it's a Methodist campground where they originally camped in tents. And over the years, they started making them little lean-tos, and then they got them to where they were little cottages. And they have all this colorful gingerbread woodworking all over them, and they're painted very bright colors. And I mean, you can literally, go online, do a Google search, cottages of Oak Bluffs. You will get some incredible photographs. I mean, oh my goodness, artists have been painting and sketching them for years. And that's where originally, when I was a little kid, we had a cottage in the campgrounds. And for a little kid growing up, it was so awesome. Run around, play all day. It was awesome. But Enoch, he built his little cottage on a nearby bluff called East Chop. And as I said, tiny little place, built the whole thing in one summer. And with the roof, he left this opening because the original intention was the next summer he wanted to come down and put a tower on the top of the cottage. So you could climb a ladder, get up there, and have this beautiful view. I mean, just from the positioning of where the cottage is, I knew that, geez, if they ever built that, oh my goodness, you would see for miles. And in the meantime, he just covered it with a tarp. And the cottage had originally like 4 bedrooms. I mean, it was for a tiny little place, had a lot of room. And so all the different family members all took a bedroom, and he decided he just laid out a mattress underneath his tarp and slept up there because, again, as I say, this was the 1880s. They didn't have air conditioning. And in the dead of summer, when it got into July and August, it got hot. I mean, it was uncomfortable. So anytime you could get any kind of cool breeze in the evening, hey, that was a real plus. So that's where he slept the whole summer. Well, that winter, winter, again, as the story goes from the family, he died of pneumonia. And of course, they always wonder, what, geez, was it tied to him, sleeping under that hole? And it's like, nah, come on, it's months later. But anyway, so the next summer, rather than build the tower, the family just had a carpenter come in and finish the roof. Well, afterwards, every summer, it without fail, there would always be this creaking and groaning to the house. Now, some of it, I mean, sure, you could say, oh, well, the wind's blowing and, of course, rickety old cottage. Of course, it's going to have some settling to it. But the thing was, they noticed, well, geez, there were nights where, I mean, there was a lot of creaking and groaning in the attic, and I mean, there was no wind, nothing, not even a hint of breeze. So they began thinking, well, you know what? I bet it's Uncle Enoch. He's walking around up there. He's upset that he didn't get his tower. One of these days, we really need to build that tower. Right. My grandmother was forever telling me this story. And I was like, yeah, I'd roll my eye or try not to roll my eyes. And I was like, yeah, okay, grandmother. Yeah, Uncle Enoch's in the attic. Well, years later, when my dad and I moved into the cottage, I began noticing, geez, you know what? This place does creak and groan an awful lot, and it is especially up in that attic. And I finally gathered enough courage to climb up there and check the place out. It was all I saw was a big old empty room. But I did clean the place out and tidy up a little bit. And I figured, well, you know what? Uncle Enoch deserves a comfortable spot. So I did go up and put on one of the old pillows and a broken chair that the legs were kind of gone. But I figured, well, again, he can at least be comfortable here, And it did seem that the creaking and groaning could diminish just a little bit after that. But the thing was, my dad and I, we kept talking about, you know what, one of these days we do want to put that tower on the cottage. And sadly, my dad passed away before we could do that. I didn't notice any increase in creaking and groaning, so I imagine he's probably not up there with Uncle Enoch, although the two would get along real good. My dad loved to tell stories, and Uncle Enoch loved to listen to them. At least it's what the family says. And so that's so that's story number one right there. And the second one kind of builds on what I was just talking about when my dad and I moved into the cottage, because what had happened is my grandparents, they were quite elderly. I mean, they were literally in their 90s, and they were still going down to the cottage every summer. And they lived up in the Boston area. And that was that's a 2-hour drive. And at their age, that was real tough. Yeah. Well, one summer, grandfather got a little lost and spent all day driving around. He finally wound up in Providence. They stayed at a motel, and then the next day managed to get to the island.
Oh, no.
And so it was after that, the family kind of decided, yeah, I think they need to stop going. So my father's sister, my Aunt Marnie, her name was Margaret, but we never called her that. It was, she was Marnie. Anyway, she lived in near Providence, a little town called Barrington, and she found this very nice retirement home in the next town over in Warren. And so she arranged for her parents to move into that. And nice. And of course, every summer they would always ask, so when are we going down to the island? So don't worry, Dad. Yeah, Pop, we'll take care of it. He'd forget about it. But it was after that my dad and I started to use their cottage. Well, my dad, he was really strict about the idea that, we don't make any changes to the cottage, because Mother and Pop, they may actually get down here. I would not be at all surprised that Pop finally puts his foot down and says, Marnie, we're going down to the cottage this summer, or at least go for a visit. And it would be like, yes, Dad. Okay. Yes, Pop. All right. That's what they call it.
Very possible. Okay.
And so we thought, okay, so we got to take care of the place and keep it maintained exactly as they have it, at least for the remainder of their lives. And as I say, they were 90, how much longer, frankly, they got. Well, they lived to 93. So, I mean, they still had a good kick to them. But anyway, one of the things that I tried to take care of was my grandmother's rose bushes. She had this one end of the porch, but she had a trellis, the classic thing, and all the rose bushes up and down that. And originally, my first intent was the minute I got in that cottage, I was just going to hack them all down. Because when I was a little kid and I would come to visit them in the cottage, any little kid, you want to climb and have fun and, play games. And it's like those damn rose bushes, those thorns were wicked.
Brutal.
And it's like, first thing that goes is those rose bushes. Out. hacking them down. I will burn them. Hack and slash here, people.
Oh no.
you know, yeah. What was a scorched earth policy? That's the term I'm thinking of. But anyway, I got up there and I had the shears and the axe and the gasoline and the matches all in my hand. And I'm looking at these bushes and I couldn't bring myself to do it. It's like, no, these are grandmother's roses. So got to take care of them. So I'm like, okay, so let's see what we can do here. So, one of the things that I was told is you get some of the ash out of the fireplace, and they had a little pot. They would take it out and you sprinkle that on the bushes. That acts like a fertilizer. It'll help them grow. And tried that. Of course, watered them all regular, and they didn't bloom. Not one single solitary blossom all summer. And so the first summer was a real bust. And the second summer, I'm thinking, well, maybe I should just chop them out. I'm like, no. Again, grandmother's rose bushes. So I thought back
Right.
to some of the things they told me about the cottage. I mean, grandfather, again, he had these great stories about, there was this old clay pot that he said had come from a Egyptian pharaoh's tomb, and been made into a lamp. And it was all nonsense. I looked at it when we moved in. It's like it was wood and it was just covered with plaster of Paris to make it look like an old vase. But
Oh.
hey, but the story, hey, to a little kid, hearing about grave robbers and blood and gold. I mean, that was Indiana Jones, to the nth degree before Indiana Jones ever existed. If Spielberg had heard that story, he would have worked it into the movie. I mean, but I remembered my grandmother saying, well, rose bushes that they're like cats. They don't have an owner; they have a staff that takes care of them. And so you have to water them and fertilize, but then they also have to talk to them. And I was kind of like, talk to a plant. I was about like 14, 15 at the time, and I'm trying to think, what in the world do you talk to a plant about? It's like, hey, Rosie, boy, that chlorophyll of yours looking real green there. Nice sunny day. I bet that photosynthesis is really working on you, huh? And it's like, no, that didn't make sense. So now my father and I, we were big for community theater, and I had been at it for years. I mean, I started, God, I think it was 5, the first show I worked on. And so I thought, well, okay, I could do that. So I started singing these songs from different shows, My Fair Lady, and then if Little Shop of Horrors had been around at the time, it wasn't. I would have sung "Grow for Me." That would have been a perfect song. Although I was not have to given it any blood. I draw the line at opening a vein
Yeah.
for a plant.
Yeah.
But
There you go.
so
No.
tried that, and again, year after year, nothing. Nothing bloomed. I just could not understand these plants. And then one winter, we got the call from my aunt that, well, grandmother had passed in her sleep, 93. And about 6 months later, she called again, and grandfather was gone. It's like without his lovely June bride, that's how we thought of grandmother. No matter how old she got, the gray hairs, the lines, no, all he ever saw was his June bride. And without her, there was no point. So anyway, Marnie arranged for them to be cremated, and then we decided that summer, the whole family would get together and we would fulfill their wishes, sort of. My grandfather had said, now, Junie, because my father was a junior, so he was always called Junie. He really hated that.
Oh, yeah.
He said, now, Junie, I want you to take us out on the island ferry and have the captain just pause it off of each chop, sprinkle our ashes there, and then toot the horn twice. And we were like, I don't think the steamship authority is going to go for that. So
Right.
so instead we just rented a boat, and so on the drive up to the island, my father and I stopped by, saw Aunt Marnie, and we picked up like their personal items that they had left with her, and then also went and got their ashes, and we took them to the island. So it's like, okay, they're going to the island finally. So anyway, we get there, and I put their little boxes of ashes and put them. There was a nice little table in the front bedroom, which had been theirs, and so I left them there, a place of honor. And we opened up the cottage, turned on the water and all the things, and dutifully I went back to tending those rose bushes. and trying again. And I'm like, Rosie, this is your last chance. I don't see something bloom. Hey, grandmother and grandfather are gone. This is it. You don't
Right.
bloom next summer, you're gone. I will plant azaleas or something here in your place. Anything, you know. And then we waited, and each day a few more family members would get to the island. Excuse me. And then on the morning of the service, I got up, excuse me, and went down, and I got a little bowl to go out to this. We had a buried bush outside the back door of the cottage. I thought it was blueberries, but it turns out they were currants, which are still pretty tasty. But I would gather, I would go out and pick some, and you put those in my pancakes. So it's like, well, so
Nice.
kind of blueberry pancakes. Anyway, so I go out and I'm gathering them. I look down at the porch, and I see the rose bushes, and it's covered with flowers. Just these huge, beautiful pink and white blossoms. Just, oh my goodness, it was incredible the number that were there. And I was just like, wow, now that's what grandmother would like. And
Yeah.
so after breakfast, I got this little tray. It was again a little antique thing that was meant for you for like you go out and gather flowers and you'd lay them out in it. So I clipped
Okay.
off a whole bunch of these little roses and took them out on the boat, and we said our the final services, scattered their ashes, and then I scattered the roses on the water.
Oh,
And thereafter, every summer, the roses bloomed, and it seemed like they're pretty close to blooming on the same day, that day. So I thought to myself, well, okay, it seems like I don't know, the spirits of the earth, they they needed to say goodbye to grandmother and grandfather in a proper way before accepting me as their staff. So,
so were these
uh,
roses red, or what color were these roses
well,
prior
they
to
were
them
kind of a
blooming again?
blending. They were
Okay.
kind of a blending, kind of a pink white type of blossom. Very small little flowers. I mean, very, very tiny. But they had always bloomed this beautiful kind of pink color. And starting that summer, it was pink with like a little touch of white to it, a little flecks to it. And I was like, I don't know why they changed, but I'm like, okay, as I say, it was that summer, the summer of their service, when the plants decided, okay, we're ready to bloom. You know, we accept you as our caretaker now that grandmother is gone. And
That's
so I
cool.
was very dutiful in that. It was my way of honoring her that every summer I would be sure to take care of those rose bushes.
Yeah. The pink and the white is
So
actually a high vibration. So the
really,
vibration of the pink
oh,
and the white is very um like angelica type colors. So
mm-hmm.
that could be because of your grandma is in heaven, and this was her vibration within those
Oh,
flowers.
geez, I never thought of that. That's interesting to know because I was wondered, why this. I had never seen roses like that. I mean, pink, red, the different colors, but to be predominantly pink with just these little, like almost little flecks of white in it, that just mystified me. And I was like, okay, I guess it's just a variety of roses I'm not familiar with. Hey, I was a
Right.
teenage boy. What do you,
Right.
I'm
So yeah,
not going to know that much about roses.
very true. But I'm just learning this too because I'm this summer I'm wanting to put up a fairy garden in my front yard. And I was told to put like the pinks and the white roses with part of it because that is such a high vibrational color that it'll attract the fairies to this garden. So it's a
Oh,
very high vibrational energy.
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
So your grandma
that's
is
well,
with
again,
you.
hey, that's great to know. I'll keep that in
There you
mind the
go.
next time I'm on the island. I'll swing by the old place and see if they're still blooming.
There you go. Tell her hi for
Yeah.
me.
Yes. Yes. Okay. And now this next story concerns my faithful old dog Rex, and he was a little Jack Russell Terrier. Was my bosom friend from the time. Just let's see, I got him. I think I was 13, and he lived 15 years. And so when he was 28, I was finally said goodbye to him, and I had him cremated. And at the time, I was taking my then girlfriend, Joanne, up to see Martha's Vineyard Island because I had told her all about it, but she'd never seen it. I've even heard about it. And she just could not believe that this place was real because I told her all these stories, childhood growing up, feeding the ducks at the pond, going fishing, yada, yada. And she was just, there's no such place. You think you had the perfect childhood. Who do you think you were? Christopher Robin in the 100-Acre Woods? That's ridiculous. So, so I had to prove it.
Well, yes, I was.
Yeah. So yeah, I just didn't know it at the time. It
Right.
drove my mother crazy. Actually, I was running around barefoot all day, and like, my feet were absolutely filthy. And she probably, would you wash your feet before you go to bed? You get the sheets just filthy, And it's like, really, you expect an 8-year-old boy to wash his feet? Come on, not going to happen.
Wash him,
But anyway,
mom.
so we yeah, yeah. So we flew up there and got a little place, or actually we were staying in the cottage, and I took her around to all my old haunts that go down to the campgrounds and showed her, this is where the places we used to play, and like the cottage that we had owned was called the Cricket. And I even showed her, I said, back here on the porch, my dad never nailed down these final boards, so we pulled them up, and that's where we built our engine. You know, we got like an old pot and some spark plugs, and so that was when we played Star Trek, that was the warp drive, or whatever. And it's like, the thing is, after the cottage was sold, the people came along and nailed those boards down. I don't think they looked under it. All that stuff is probably there. So I'm just thinking, geez, you know what? In 10,000 years, some archaeologist is going to dig that up and be like, oh, this is fascinating. Is this a burial ritual? What do these three spark plugs signify? Past, present, future. They're going to try and get all this, divine, um, uh, spiritual significance out of these objects. Oh boy, I wish I'd put a note in. You know, but anyway, showed her that, and some of my friends that still were now adults, but they would come to the island still for the summers, so got to meet them and took her to like the flying horses, and we were very lucky in that the first night we arrived, this was in August, it was grand illumination night, so she got to see where they put all these Japanese lanterns on all the cottages. And they start out at we have this huge building called the Tabernacle, which it has no walls, just but these supports that hold up the multi-tiered roof, and then a stage and all these seats. And you go in and we have the community sings. And so they're singing songs like, in the good old summertime, or I'm in the Swiss Navy, or Little Tommy Tinker. I mean, just all these old. Oh, actually, that reminds me right here. I happen to have. Let me see if I can hold this up. This is one of the song books that we would
Oh,
use.
wow.
This one was issued special because you can see the 150th anniversary, but they have just the
Cool.
regular ones that they would use every summer, and you can see here the songs.
Oh,
So we got all the
nice.
lyrics, and so the MC would say, well, please turn to page 37, and we'll sing such and such. And
Right.
so we got to do that, and then lighting the lanterns and going around and seeing them. And Joanne was just, wow, I don't believe this place exists. It's incredible. And
Uh-huh.
we took her
Sounds
out to
beautiful.
Aquina. Yeah, yeah, and then took her out to Aquina. We used to be called Gay Head, but now it's gone back to the native name, and that's where the clay cliffs are. And again, you can look those up online. They're absolutely gorgeous. All these multicolored types of clay, and it's a National Historic Site. And so showed her that, and all these was able to point out, there's no man's land, the little island off to the southwest there. The Navy used to use it for target practice when I was a little kid, which is again for a little 8-year-old boy to be able to stand and watch like a battleship blast away at an island. Oh my goodness. Forget Disney World. That's all you need right there. A couple hours watching that. Oh my God. So
Right.
anyway, we made, they say, we made all the rounds of all the places, and the flying horses took her there. That's the oldest carousel in America. And again, National Historic Site, and told her about, the first time I caught the brass ring. That was a big deal. You want a free ride, again, for a little 8, 10-year-old boy, that's the height of excitement.
Right.
And
Right.
so anyway, then one of the things we took care of was that we went out in the backyard of the cottage and under this large oak. That's where I buried Rex's ashes and said final goodbye to him. And then I took Joanne on a walk to this place. I called it the Valley. And as a little kid, like, well, what do you know? I mean, it looked like a valley. Turned out it was an old abandoned sand pit. But it was just this place where, say, the local concrete maker, he would send trucks over there to just dig up some sand, put it in trucks, bring it over, make concrete. But it looked like this big hole in the ground. So again, to a little kid standing on the rim, you're like, oh my, look at this that huge valley before us type things. And it was
Right.
another place of my of my youth. My friends and I'd go up there and play war and all types of very unpolitically politically incorrect type games.
Well, it
So
was a different world back then.
yeah. So anyway, or excuse me. So and then our the last night of our stay there, they had the Oak Bluffs fireworks, which again confused Joanne because she's like, it's not the 4th of July. It's August 28th. Why are you having fireworks? And I said, well, August 28th only happens once a year. We like to celebrate it. She's like, what? I'm kidding. She was a little gullible back then. She hadn't learned just how nuanced my humor was. Now she just doesn't flat out believe anything I tell her.
Oh, there
Got
you
to
go.
prove it.
Got that.
Not quite so gullible. But no, it was something the town fathers started years ago. The idea was to celebrate the end of summer. And they also realized, well, if we have fireworks on the 4th of July, we're going to be competing with Edgartown, and theirs are much bigger and better. So anyway, so we went and saw the fireworks, and it was actually a pretty cold day for August because, see, we had just had, of all things, Hurricane Bob had hit the island a couple days before. And in that case, we turned out to be very lucky. My oldest brother, Stephen, he and his wife, Linda, lived on the island. And they, of course, had a brand new house with the electric stove and the electric hot water heater and da. And whereas at the cottage, we had the gas hot water heater and the gas stove. Well, after Bob tore through, there wasn't no electricity. so, ironically, us in this little old dinky cottage, we were more comfortable than anybody else.
Oh, see, so there's
Yeah,
something to say for those bare minimums,
yeah, going with the old technology.
right?
Anyway, so our last night we saw the fireworks, and again, Joanne was just amazed by this because it was in this big open area called Ocean Park, where they have this little bandstand, kind of looks almost like a little gazebo, and the band plays music, and kids run around the bandstand. And she didn't understand why they did that. And it's like, well, what else are they going to do? Besides, it wears them out. They'll sleep good tonight. Okay, for any parent, that does make sense.
Right,
And then they had the
right.
fireworks, which were very neat. And of course, the thing was, these fireworks are a little different from your standard. The ones you usually see today. They shoot them up into the sky. Because we were so close to them, they had the ones that are like on the wall type. So like, fireworks go off and they form an American flag. Or
Oh,
they'll fireworks go up and they form a firefighter. And they did that because the fire department sponsored the fireworks. So
nice.
they had the pinwheels that would spin, go sparkly and all that. It's like that's kind of unique. You don't see those that very much these days.
No.
So anyway, that had our last night. Next day we flew home. Well, that fall we got married, and then a year later we had our daughter Alexa, and a couple of years after that we came back to the island. First visit and able to bring Alexa, and she was probably like 2, maybe 3 years old maximum. Um, and we again go under the stay in the cottage, and my brother Stephen had picked us up at the airport and or no, met us at the boat. That's right, because we did have our car. So he was helping us bring some supplies into the cottage, stock the kitchen and all. And I was outside letting Alexa stretch her legs because she's sitting in that car seat for so long. And we're walking right near that old oak tree that was out back, and she just paused and she pointed at the ground and said, "Doggy's sleeping." And I was like, where did that come from? Because there was no marker for Rex's grave. I hadn't, put a little cross or, or a little bone, you know, any
Right.
sort of symbol. No, it was just grass. I mean, and mint of all things. There was a lot of mint leaves out there. My dad used to go out and pick them to make a mint julep. He rather liked those.
Oh, sounds
But
good.
yeah, he really liked those. But yeah, as I say, no marker, but she was pointing. So I got knelt down next to her and I said, "What did you say, honey?" She said, "The doggy is sleeping." And I was just like, wow, she's very emphatic about this. I mean, and just at that moment, Joanne and my brother Steve, they came out the back door of the cottage, and I turned to them and gestured for them to come over. And I said, Alexa, tell mommy what you just told me. I mean, I wanted to make sure I'm not imagining this. I'm not having some psychotic episode. She did actually say this. And she looked up at Joanne and said, Doggy is sleeping here. And Joanne was, and my brother Steve was like, what's she talking about? So we had to explain to him that, yeah, we buried Rex. I mean, right where she's pointing. And we were just like, wow. I mean,
Oh,
that was the biggest thing. And of course, now with her being older, I mean, she's in her 30s, she doesn't remember any of this. I mean, after all, she was a toddler, but it just blew us away. And this is the kind of story we share it with the friends and family whenever we get the chance, because we're just like, if you ever wanted proof that, there's something out there amongst the dwelling in the spirit world and that little kids are really in tune with this, I'm convinced right there.
does she still have that skill? Does she still
No,
use that gift or?
no, or at least I haven't seen her in that sort of situation. I mean, she has two cats, and she's had cats for years. Just recently, she had to put one of them. Pablo was very long term pet, but had to have him put down. And
Mhm.
his brother Chicken, that she also had, was just devastated. I mean, she could see him just kind of moping around the house. And her boyfriend Mike has a dog, Millie. And then it was so cute. She says it's so cute to see how Millie will go over and nuzzle Chicken to kind of comfort him, as you can tell that he's upset
Oh,
about something.
oh yeah,
Misses his brother, and Millie's
yeah.
this big golden lab, an old dog. Because when I take him out for walks, it's just kind of
Oh yeah.
you just let the dog set their own pace.
Right,
But yeah,
right.
but so she recently got a brand new kitten and brought that home, and so now that she feels more of a balance to her life. That was very important to her. But yeah, no, I haven't seen her, or at least she hasn't mentioned any other kind of connection. But that was certainly one that, I mean, I was frankly felt rather honored and amazed to witness. But
Right.
because the thing that got me was it was so spontaneous. You know, it's like I didn't even know. I was looking around trying to figure out, where had I buried Rex, because as I hadn't left a marker, it was all overgrown, and I wasn't. It's not like I was about to, like, put some flowers on the spot or something. I wasn't even looking at it. It just out of the blue, and for her to point, literally point to the ground and say, "Doggy sleeping," I was
Right.
like, "Wow." And so,
Right.
and it was a very emotional moment for me. I had to fight back the tears and tell her, well, yes, yes, Alexa, he is sleeping, and he will wait patiently at the Rainbow Bridge.
Hmm. Yeah, she sounds like she's still connected with animals, is kind of what I'm
Oh,
getting.
oh yeah, she's very much so.
Very
I mean,
connected with them.
over, over the course of her childhood, she had, let's see, a pet um, hermit crab, a pet rat. She literally got books from the library to prove to us that a hand raised rat can be a nice pet. And so we eventually got her one, called him Nosy, and he was an absolute delight. Oh my goodness. We said he was like having a miniature dog in the house because he
Oh
was so
my.
cute and so pleasant to be around. And when we were playing cards, he would like go from person to person on the table and look at our hands, and we give him treats. And he lived a good long life. I think it was like 3 or 4 years. And for I think for domesticated rats, that's a
Long time.
long time. And then eventually she had a cat, Snow White, that was genetically deaf because she was pure white with pink eyes and
Where's that
no
white and
blemishes on
pink?
the skin. Yeah, and no blemishes on the skin. They say that's important. If you meet those three criteria with any animal, it's like 90% probability they're going to be deaf. And so
Oh
we had
my.
gotten Snow, and so no one wanted her at the Humane Society. They were going to put her down. So we thought, well, geez, we got a noisy 3-year-old. That cat will be perfect, you know. So, and then it was just a matter of what are we going to name her? You know, Snowball, Snowflake, you know, Sugar, Salt. Then we said heroin, cocaine, you know, easy. And then Alexa, of course, you know, she was into Disney quite a lot as a young child, who wasn't. So went with Snow White. And of course, when we went to Disney World and met Snow White, she had to tell her all about her cat, you know.
That's
And I give
Snow
kudos
White.
to, yeah, I give kudos to the actress. She was so sweet and so good about, you know, very patient with her and listening to the whole story. So
Oh, how
they do a
sweet.
good job. They do a very good job.
That's
And
awesome.
then after Snowy, she got a dog, the little Beagle Labrador mix, excuse me, named Shakespeare. And she named him that because we got him on Shakespeare's birthday. And when she said, I want to call him Shakespeare, she was like 5 at the time. The lady at the Humane Society said, well, honey, if you can spell it, I'll write it down. And she, and she spelled it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, she very highly gifted child. Yeah. We
Yeah.
discovered that very early on. I mean, her 1 year checkup, the doctor was like, does she talk? And I'm like, she talks, you know. What does she say? My wife said, I don't know. I mean, she took Alexa's bottle, held it up. Alexa, what's this? That's my baba. And the doctor's like, that's not talking. That's a whole sentence. I'm like, yeah, so you know,
And what's different? What's wrong with this? Right?
yeah. Well, he said that
Yeah.
the normal childhood development, you know, you're expecting by a year that they're at least, you know, getting words, you know, mama, papa, you know, ball, light, things like that. But to put them to structure it into a sentence, that no, they were not expecting that at all. So that was the
Wow.
first hint that she was highly gifted. and then
Nice.
in kin and
Nice.
then in kindergarten found out, they said we have to have her evaluated. And we're like, okay, sure, go ahead, you know. And they gave her the third grade IQ test. She couldn't read it, so they read the questions to her, and she got a perfect score.
Wow.
So, like, yeah, she needed, you know,
Uh,
some what do you call it? The exceptional education classes, you know, or
yeah.
gifted.
Accelerated.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, she used to be what they call a scrum master, this person that organizes a team that writes computer programs, so these apps for like businesses and government and different agencies. Now she's the person above the scrum master who gives them their work, I think. I'll be honest,
Wow.
I have trouble following some of the stuff she does. It's like, wow, I mean, I'm good. I'm a civil engineer, but man, some of the stuff she deals with, it's a heavy
Wow.
brain matter.
Wow. Well, good for her.
Yeah,
Good for
yeah.
her. That's pretty
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's pretty
and she's
awesome.
very happy, and she's living up now in Connecticut, and we're still here in the Orlando area. This is this
Yeah.
is this is our place. Don't know too many stories about here, but do have lots of stories about Martha's Vineyard. I mean, there have been, as I said, there's all kinds of myths and legends about that place
And
and the neighboring lands.
you said something about flying doors. Doors were flying open and balls were rolling in. Does that ring a bell?
Oh. Well, that's not related to the island, but it is actually it's related to Shakespeare. It's a story regarding him. As I said, he was Alexa's first dog, and when Snow White passed, we got a smooth coat collie, and she named him Romeo. And yes, the next dog was Juliet.
Okay. Got to have the team, right? Got to have the
Yeah,
full thing.
yeah. But anyway, with Shakespeare, I mean, he was a great old dog, and as I said, Beagle Labrador mix. So it looked like a Labrador puppy, and he was his biggest talent was that he was an opera singer. When opera music would come on the TV or the radio, like we were watching the Marx Brothers movie Night at the Opera, and they started singing opera, he sang along with them. And we were just
Oh,
like, oh my God, he's an opera singer. Because we put on other music, Britney
nothing.
Spears or, the Beatles or anything like that. Now he'd go to sleep. But man, you put on like Les Mis and Cosette starts singing about love. Oh, just this. So he was a real delight. But, yes, dogs don't live as long as us. There came the time when
Right.
we did have to have him put down. And we brought him home. This time not cremated. We went to the vet, and um, I went out in the backyard, and of course Romeo just had to just sniff all over him and understand that his buddy's gone. And so I dug him a proper grave, and we gave him a nice little headstone. And then I went into the shower to get cleaned up. For one thing, I figured, well, it's kind of dirty work, but also if I'm standing in a shower, I won't see the tears fall. They'll just be washed
Yeah.
away. So I can pretend they're
Right.
not there. But after I was all done drying up and getting into fresh clothes, I came down the hall into our little atrium area, and just at that moment, yeah, the front door just flew open, and I was kind of surprised because I mean it was closed good and tight, and it's not like it was a very windy day, but it boom just opened, and one of Shakespeare's toys rolled in from the front yard, and Romeo dashed over and picked up the ball, and then he went over to the front door and he kind of cocked his head, and then he laid down and just dropped the ball there in front of him, and he just sat there for a couple of minutes. And I tried calling to him. I was like, come on, Romeo, come on, I want to close the door. Come in. It's like, nope, he just sat there, just kind of looking out, which kind of surprised me because usually if the door was open, he was out the, some dogs can be out the door and across the
Right.
lawn and forget it. You're not going to find him for hours. But no, he just sat there for a couple minutes and then got up and came back in, and then I was able to close the door. And Alexa wasn't home; she was at school at that time. But I always wondered, geez, how would she have reacted to that? You know, it's kind of like
Yeah.
was it Shakespeare saying goodbye to his old friend, and wishing him well?
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, but again, just one of those is just odd little episodes that happens every once in a while,
Yeah.
and does kind of signal to you that there's more going on than we know of.
Right. Right. I'd be curious if your daughter would have been able to see the animals, see them,
Yeah,
the spirit of them, because she saw um the first one,
yeah. She saw
Rex.
Rex, as she said, sleeping.
Right. So
Excuse me, but
she
didn't know
may
his
have
name.
seen, you're right. She may have seen the others had she
Mm-hmm.
been there
Excuse
and
me.
seen
Yeah,
what was going
possibility.
on.
Just that
Yeah.
with Shakespeare, by that time, I think she was about 12, maybe 14 years old. So again, my experience, at least what I've seen with kids doing that, they tend to be the younger ones. It seems like as they get
Right.
older, I don't know, I guess they kind of learn from us adults, oh, you have to, ignore the spirit world because that's not real. And so they
Yeah.
they turn their back on it. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but I mean, Shakespeare was her first dog, and she dearly loved that old pup. And so who knows? She if she'd been there, maybe she would have.
Yeah.
But she did tell me that she often dreamed of him. You know,
Oh, see? Yeah,
yeah.
that's part of
So
it too. He was coming back to visit and saying hi
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. That's
yeah,
awesome. That's awesome. I also
yeah.
have a note on here saying, with your mom felt her son pass.
Oh yes, that was just a few years back. Um, my mother was living in Naples, Florida, um, and had been for the last, my goodness, probably 15, 20 years. Um, and my brother Gregory, son number two, he lived there as well. And so in her later years, he was always there to, help her out with things, take care of her and stuff. And my brother Steve, he was the one that said, living up on Martha's Vineyard. Well, he developed prostate cancer, and that metastasized to his bones. And this was when she was 90. And just before her 90th birthday, we got calls from Greg, everyone in the family, saying that, well, Steve was in the hospital and things were looking kind of bad. And so my brother Greg took my mom on a plane, went up to visit him. And because they figured, this is probably it. He doesn't have much time. Originally, they were going to fly up after her 90th birthday, but the doctor said, I don't think he has that long. So they switched to an earlier flight. So anyway, they went up and visited, and she got to see him, and then they came back, and then we all got together for her 90th birthday. It was, we always make a point of doing that. Although
Right.
she would always tell us, I mean, I don't need anything, and realize, well, she's kind of right. I mean, God, she's 90. What else does she need? It's like the last really good birthday present she got was from my wife Joanne. She got her this nice light little sweater, because even down in sunny Naples, my mother would get cold, particularly when she went shopping. Oh, she'd just get a terrible chill. So that sweater, that was perfect. But beyond
Good.
that, she always said, I don't need anything anymore. Everyone come down here. We'll all go out to dinner. There's, a restaurant I really like. We'll go there, it'd be nice, and I can be with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all managed to do that. Well, there's the four brothers. Um, uh, Stephen, number one, wasn't able to make it. He was in the hospital. So we all got together, and then we went our separate ways. And a few days later, my brother Greg took my mom over to see his daughter Christina and their little kids. They had two little ones, and he was always doing that because the little ones, they were so invigorated with life. The bright, bubbly energy of toddlerhood. That
Right.
was good. That buoyanced her up, that reinvigorated her and kept her going. And so they went over and we're having just a pleasant evening, visiting with the grandkids and all the two great grandkids for her. Um, and I remember my brother Greg telling me sometime later, he says that there was this moment where suddenly mom just felt this weight on her, and she had to go sit down. And so she went in another room and just sat for a moment. And it was a few minutes later, he got a text message from the nurse that was helping Linda with take care of Steve, that while he was gone. And so he had to go tell our mom. And she just said, I knew he was gone. She felt him leave. And I guess you could say, mothers are very in tune with their babies. And that was almost it for her, because her heart was really broken. But my brother Greg, he brought her back from the brink. Is the next couple of weeks, what with her, just for the grief she was feeling, he would always make a point. He'd say, Mom, why don't you come over for dinner? And then she'd say, yeah, sure, why not? And nothing else to do. And then he'd call Christina, get Jack and Sarah, get over here now. Because once again, the two little ones, the young life. It it reinvigorated her, and we had her for another 5 years. And I
That's
firmly
really
believe she
awesome.
would have made it to 100, but my brother Greg passed from cancer. And when she felt that loss, that was too much.
This is a lot. Yeah.
It,
Well, there's a beautiful place that they're both at, where all of them are at. When my mom passed, she was on life support pretty much at the last. And my brother was in the room when they took it off. And
Mm.
he got this bill. This might make you feel better. He got this bill to look up in the corner of the room. And when he did, this is what I'm imagining what he was saying, so everybody has their own
Hmm.
picture of what someone's saying. So my picture is he looks up in the corner of the room and there's like this white light with all these beautiful colory glittery stuff just going on. And our mom walked up into it. He got to see her walk into this like tunnel kind of thing. And she turned around and says, I'm okay. It's going to be okay. I'm all right. And then she turned around and she was gone. And
Mm.
so it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know I have a friend that, well, I guess you could say a co-worker, sort of, a fellow. I work with the canned uh, canned meat or theater group. Um,
Uh,
a couple of years back, he threw a cast party to celebrate the end of the latest season of our episodes. And
right.
just as I arrived, he was on the phone, and he got off the phone. He said, "My grandmother just passed away."
Oh,
And he wasn't sad about it at all because she was 107.
oh, wow.
He said, and he said, the poor woman, yes, I remember that. Boy, my mom made it to 95. I thought that was old. I mean, holy cow, 107, dude, way to go. But he
Right.
said her last week had been so miserable. She was in
Hmm.
so much pain. He said,
Hmm.
the minute anyone walked into her hospital room, the first words out of her mouth were, please kill me. She was
Hmm.
just miserable. And so he said, this was her release.
Hmm.
She was free of the pain.
Right.
Solid. I have a grandmother clock. It's one of my favorites. So
He's
it
going
chimes
off.
on the hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was almost happy about it because he felt she is at peace now. She's crossed over.
Hmm.
And when I see
Yeah.
her, she'll be whole and healthy again.
Right. And that's the same with my mom. She was in such pain all the time. She was sleeping all the time. It's kind of the signs of the ending. Um, but she was diabetic, and so she had very, very little of her kidney. She just had like 6% of her kidney. I mean, she was in pain all the time. She was sleeping all the time. She just wasn't in a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
She would have
Yeah.
good times
Yeah.
where she's up and going. But I finally said, Mom, it's okay. Whenever you're ready,
Yeah.
whenever you're
Well,
ready, just it's okay.
that's actually how things were with my in-laws. My father-in-law, he was in his 80s and he had suffered an injury, and he bounced from hospital to rehab back and forth, and he was just,
Hmm.
he was in and out of consciousness. And finally, on the last visit with my wife, they live down in Port Charlotte, so my wife traveled down to be with them. On her last visit to see him, he was, essentially unconscious, and she
Hmm.
just whispered to him, "Dad, it's okay. We'll take care of Mom.
Yep.
It's okay."
Yeah.
And then, and then she left. And by the time she got back to the house, the center had called and he was gone.
Yeah.
He just needed to be reassured.
Yeah. That it's
And then with,
okay.
yeah, and then with her mother, I mean,
Hmm.
my wife is one of three daughters, and with her mother, she was having a terrible time with just psychotic episodes. The way Joanne described it, maybe she's seeing ghosts because she talks about like seeing a man walking by the window. She sees a
Oh yeah.
baby, sitting on a bench outside. All these things, and it's like I don't know what's going on with her. But anyway, they finally had to sedate her to keep her, at least calm, so she wasn't getting too hyperactive. But um, she and her two sisters would trade off in caring for her. It's like, Marie would take a week, Jackie would take a week, and my wife would drive down, take a week, do this. And with her, when Penny, my mother-in-law, when she was in her last days, it's like she was just in bed, just in and out of consciousness, and Maria was taking care of her, and then Jackie came up to try and help, and then my wife decided, geez, I need to go now because this is looking really bad. She's not bouncing back like she had from other episodes. So she went
Right.
down, and everyone was there in the little condo, and Joanne went in to see her mother and just whispered to her, I'm here. It's okay. I'll take care of everything. And then she went off to fill some prescriptions, the
Mhm.
usual thing. Mom's, needs this med,
Right.
and so she goes to take care of all of this. And then she suddenly gets a phone call from Marie's daughter, Kimberly, so it's her niece, and saying to her, Aunt Joanne, you need to get back to the house. I think Grandma's gone.
Mhm.
And all I could think was, there you go. She needed to hear from all three of her daughters. You know, she had to know that everything was okay.
Yeah, and they will do that. They will do that.
But yeah, I've heard numerous,
Yeah,
people hanging on for like, a special event or, this something the classic, they have unfinished business.
right. My
That's
mom
we always
made
hear about
it.
ghost stories, right?
Right, right. My mom made it to
Yep.
Valentine's Day. So
Mm-hmm.
she was in and out of the hospital so much. I was like, she's never gonna die. This lady is so strong. She's never gonna die. She's gonna live forever. And
Yeah. That's what we were convinced about my mother. It's like, good gracious,
yeah,
95 and she's still going strong here. Jeez.
yeah. Mom was in and out of the hospital all the time. It's like, okay, this is the last time that she's not gonna probably come out of this one. She's home. She goes back in, same thing over and over and over. But
Yeah.
on Valentine's Day, actually, she was home. She got made it through the day with dad, and that evening they went back into the hospital, and that's when she had a cardiac arrest, and she pretty much went on life support at that point. But the
Mm-hmm.
next morning we let her go. But we all, it's for me, it was such a release because of mom being in such pain all the time. And she just, we'd be there visiting and she'd be sleeping the whole time. And that was like
Mm-hmm.
no life for her. It was no life
Yeah.
for her.
No. No.
Right.
If there's no
So,
quality of life, you know, then
right.
what's the
It was
point?
time. It was
Yeah.
time. She just needed to make sure that us kids were going to be okay and that we're not going to be, we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
We'll make it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so the funny
Yeah.
thing is
Well,
after she passed, she turned my room into like a huge closet. So it was like this huge closet. So everything I wear on my show is from her. So as a
oh,
dedicated, so even this jacket, I'm freezing, so I put this jacket on it. It's hers. So
we have some old silverware from my mother-in-law, and it's like every time I use one of those knives, I think a penny.
exactly, exactly. So you have all that, and I feel like mom's always with me when I have her clothing on and everything. So it's like it's great. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful gift that we all have that we're able to be with our relatives forever,
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah, I know with my mother, there were numerous times where we thought, she's not going to make it through this. She was involved in an automobile accident when she was, what, 93, both
Oh,
legs broken, I mean, ribs,
oh,
and
geez.
we thought, I mean, this is it. She can't come back from this. That's impossible. And
Right,
then shortly after that, she got COVID. And again, we're thinking, I mean, come on, this is a 1-2 punch. She's gone. She's never going to
right.
make it. They were talking. She was unconscious in the bed, and the doctor said, "Well, we'll transfer her to hospice next week." And we're all three, but we're all thinking, well, come on, 93. I mean, for Pete's sakes, geez, I'll take that any day. I mean, the life she had, it's okay, you know. And then my phone beeps, and it's a text message, and could see it was from my brother Greg. So I'm like, this is it. She's
This is
gone.
right.
So I get my glasses, and pull up the message. It says, "Mom just woke up and asked for lunch." And she reminded the staff, no, don't put too much salt in the soup. It's bad for me. It's just like, really?
Yeah, they had
But
their
then
time,
we have
man.
we have a friend here in Orlando. Her name's Sharon, and she was saying, "Oh, I could have told you she'd be fine in a fight between your mom and COVID. My money's on Silvana any day of the week. That lady's going to go the 1-2 punch, no problem.
Right,
Nobody's counted 10 over her yet."
right. And that's kind yeah, that was a lot like my mom. And I just, she's so strong. When you look at
Mm,
it, she was so strong. And to be able to go in and out as often as she did, and um, all of that, it's just amazing
hmm
power she had. So,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
actually, here's a quick little story to share with you. This another one I find kind of interesting is, um, back I mentioned about we had the cottage in the campgrounds that I spent my
Uh-huh.
childhood in, and on the wall next to my bed was a picture called Pals. And when the cottage got sold, all the items got you know taken by this person, that person, and the picture got taken by my brother Greg. Didn't have it for years, and or I didn't see it for years. And then, as I say, my mother passed it. She was 95 and a half. And on the 1 year anniversary of her passing, I wanted to go out and do something. Let's just get out of the house, go somewhere, someplace fun. Well, in Mount Dora, it's a town not far from here, they have this huge flea market and an antique place. And my wife and I will go up there and just walk around. We can walk around all day and just have fun sightseeing, get an ice cream, sandwich or whatever. So we go up there and we're walking around, and we go by one of these little antique places. I look over, and there's a copy of the picture Pals
Mhm.
was sitting there framed. And here, I'll show you.
I was gonna say, did you get it?
Oh, yeah, of course. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. Here, let me try. Ooh, try and get it so that you don't get too much of a shine there.
Oh, how sweet.
See the little boy sitting on the pier with his dog,
Stop. Oh,
and it's
that's
called
cute.
Pals. But
I
I saw
love
that
it.
and I was like, I don't care how much it was $10. But I was like, I guess mom's looking out for me.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Wanted
You
me to
got your
have
pal.
a little memento of my childhood back.
That's
For that matter,
right.
I don't know how well you can see it up here. This is a picture called Rounding the Buoy. And that
Okay.
used to hang in our cottage as well. And
Oh,
so I like one of the mementos I have. But with the Pals, no, that was one I just happened to find. It was in the right place for me to come and see it.
that's right. That's right. Definitely with
So,
you. Well, I had a fantastic time.
oh, well, thank you. I did
Yeah,
too.
thank you.
Sorry, I forgot about a couple of those stories. I'm glad you had your notes to remind me
I try
because
to
I've
have
written
some
down
sort of
all the
nights.
stuff I could.
I try to have some sort of notes. I mean, I'm not the
Yeah.
best note taker, but I try to have something down. But
Yeah. Well, I had the first three. I guess I'd missed the others, and then I'd completely forgotten about the pals one. But us talking reminded me of it, which is good. And
uh,
always nice to be able to share these stories. And I hope your listeners enjoy all this stuff immensely, and they'll
yeah,
check out some of these places. They could certainly go to Martha's Vineyard and take a tour, and they can tell you about some of the Wampanoag legends and some of the ghost ships and ghostly apparitions that have been seen there over the centuries.
yeah, yeah. Maybe they might even see Rex.
Yeah. Well, just look for a
Yeah,
little white Jack Russell Terrier.
there you go. Well, thank you
It
so
is.
much.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it is said that those who love the island with a special kind of devotion, they can still see the spirit of Granny Squattuck. She's one of the major goddesses of the Wampanoag, and she and her husband Moshe are supposed to dwell there, merged with the nature of the island. But every once in a while, she goes for a little walk, and if you truly love the place, you may catch sight of her or see the smoke from their campfire.
Oh, have you seen it?
Yes, I have. Haven't seen her, but I have seen that smoke. Thought there was a forest fire and went running to check, and nope, there was nothing there. So,
Mm. Very awesome. Very awesome. Well, you'll have to let me know if you ever see.
oh, yes, definitely. Believe me, I'm going to be posting that on my Facebook page.
Well, this is awesome. This is awesome. I had such a good time, and I am so happy to have you on the show. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, as I say, I was absolutely pleased and proud to be here. This was a delight, and I hope your listeners enjoy it.
I bet they will.
All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, do you have any other last words to say to everyone or have anything?
No, to kind of wrap things up, although I will say, hey, if you ever get to the island, you got to make a point of going to State Beach, go to Second Bridge, they now call it the Jaws Bridge, and jump from that old bridge. That is one of the true joys of summer. And then you can go get you a t-shirt that literally says, I jumped off the Jaws Bridge.
There you go. All right, everyone. Gotta go do it now. Go
Yeah,
check it out. Very awesome. Very awesome. Thank you again for being on this show. I had a really
yeah.
good time. Had a great time.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I will say goodbye to everyone. Happy
All right.
listening.
Yay. If you anyone else out there has a story you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And we will see everybody next time. All right. Bye.
Bye.